It's July the 1, 2023. Happy Canada Day. It's a warm Canada Day. It's about 30 C right now. Maybe not quite. I think the high today was about 30 or 31. But it's about noon. And so it's about as hot as it's going to get probably. But it will take until probably 4 or 5 o'clock before it starts to drop. And we are off to a market today. So I'm not working in the apiary. The bees are just having a great time. They've got a nectar flow on here. And I walk out in the apiary and it sounds like a waterfall out here with all the fanning and drying that's going on in the hives. It's really quite an incredible sound. And somebody was asking me last night, well, how many colonies do I have? And I didn't know. I hadn't counted. I just counted. And so there's 54. There's 54 10-frame colonies. Now, some of them are honey producers. Some of them not doing very well, and they just need to be requeened. There's probably half a dozen that need to be requeened. So we're probably looking at 40, 45 good colonies. And then I have, there's 13 pallets of 6-frame nucs here. Less 2, I think. There's 2 empty spots. So, you know, you can do the math on that. Was that 37? Something like that. So, yeah. So things are looking better than they were 6 weeks ago for sure. And then, of course, there's the 40 over at the outyard that James brought by. So what I'm doing here now is I just am going to pilfer some zombie hives, and I'm going to put a couple frames in my observation hive that I have here. I've kind of taken the top off it already, so it's not what it, it doesn't look like what it normally looks like. And I've got the blinds on it to keep the sun off the bees. And I've laid it down over so that I can easily fill it with frames. So this hive, I think I built it in 2016. And it looks great, but like an idiot, I built it out of white oak, so it's really heavy. So it's kind of hard to move around, is why I have it on the wagon. I'm at the far end of the apiary, and I didn't care to lug it the whole way. And so I'll just, I'll show you how I load this thing. It's got blinds on each side. It's just a piece of 1/4-inch board on each side, and then it's got the glass. And so inside the blind, the glass sits. I always put some wax on it. So I'm going to put this glass here because I'll need it. And yeah, so that's just how I load it up, and I just lay the frames in there. I'll slide the glass in, put the blinds on, take it back over to the building where I put the top on. And the kids, well, everybody loves seeing the bees at the markets. My wife doesn't like it because I spend all my time talking bees and she spends her time selling product. And the kids sometimes will have a little challenge for them to find the queen, and then sometimes we'll have a little prize for them as a reward for finding the queen by themselves. It's not that hard because the queen's marked, so I have to find a marked queen in the zombie hives here and install her in there. It's kind of a little bit goofy for my setup because I kind of just followed the plans I found online for building it before I realized that it's built for two deeps and a medium. I don't really run mediums, so I always have to find a medium frame. This one's not even drawn, just to take up that space in the top. But oh well, beginning of the flow. So I just have to tell people the truth that there's no honey yet. They're just starting to bring it in. Some of these queens aren't marked, as I recall, so I'm not sure which one I'm going to end up using. I like to find something that's got something that I can show, like a little patch of brood and a little bit of honey maybe. And of course a queen. You have to bring a queen. That is mandatory in my opinion. Bees are a little bit animated today. See, there's a nice decent brood frame that I could put in there. If this queen is marked, then I will just take those 2 frames. I don't see a marked queen. I don't see any kind of queen. So maybe she's not marked. I know there's quite a few that weren't marked when I went through them. I'm not sure why that was. I thought everybody was marked. Okay, I'll take my sunglasses off and look again. There's definitely a queen in here. This isn't the greatest one. The comb is a little wavy here, and that interferes with the glass sliding down. However, it's got a nice pollen band there, which would be nice to show the people. I can mark this queen if I can find her. She's a 21, so she'd be white. Yeah, she's actually laid eggs in here. There's some nectar here where she's laid eggs in this part. So she might be a zombie, but she's a pretty good one, I guess. Okay, I gotta find her. There she is. She's a root beer queen. She's kind of colored the same color as that comb. That's why she's really hard to find. Hard for me to find. Now, tip this up on its side. She's not in a really good place for this catcher thing. Oh, she just... I put it over, she bolted right up inside it. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, so now I can mark her. She's a 21, so she'll get marked white, and that'll make her very easy to find at the market today. My competitive advantage pen. Make sure it doesn't flood. It's very wet in the heat. Now where can you see this? I'll try to mark her so you can see it. There we go. Okay, so she's marked. I'll put her right on top of this hive, and then I'll put these frames in the observation hive. Now the bottom frame sits in kind of in a bit of a recess here in the bottom. I'll clean out the dead bees. I hate it when there's dead bees in here because that's the only thing anybody wants to talk about. Oh, there's a dead bee. Look at the dead bee. Oh, there's a dead bee. Look at the dead bee. Oh, look at the dead bee. Oh, there's a dead bee in here. Look. He squashed her. Look at, she's squashed. It's a dead bee. And there's 5,000 living bees and an interesting queen. It's just the dead bee is all we want to talk about. I'm just saying that's exactly what happens. So what happens here is this bottom frame fits in the recess, so I have to slide it in bottom first, then the frame rest is here. And the second one in like manner, but it doesn't sit in a recess, so it's easier to put in. And then I put the medium in the top for the last frame. Okay, this is the first. That's the one that has the nice pollen band on it. It's interesting to watch the bees in the observation hive, how fast they build comb. They'll start to build comb and stick the frames to the glass to stabilize everything. And I see a girl there with pollen pants. There's a couple of pollen pants. Okay. Now this one in last. Just use up the space. Oh, that's good conversation. You know, I can tell them about the plastic foundation. And I think I will start the glass in here before I put the queen in. I'll just slide it down a little ways. Try not to mash anybody. If you mash a bee between the glass and the comb, okay, you're not going to be able to get out of there. So then it'll be the same thing. Oh, look at the bee. She can't get out. She's trapped. She's smushed. She's, you know. I've been at too many of these markets. I know what happens. Okay, you gotta stay out of there. Okay, now hopefully my glass will stay there, which I don't think it will. I'm gonna use my pen as a prop. Okay, I can just deposit the queen in the bottom now. And we have just a few stragglers. And I realize the foragers that are out are going to be kind of homeless. Okay, you got to choose. You're either going in or you're going to stay home today. Okay, it's my queen. I don't want her down in there. I want her up in there. There she goes. She's up inside the glass. So we'll just try not to damage her. And now the bees want to get their heads cut off. Okay, there's my queen walking on the glass. Now I need to get that blind back on there, because that is now a solar powered oven. So there we go. One of the challenges at the market is that the queen always wants to go to the dark side, of course, as you know, and that's the inside of my canopy area where I sell my product. So it's difficult to get the queen to stay on the front. Usually people have to come around the back a bit. We are in Selkirk, Manitoba at the Canada Day Market and Celebration. There's going to be some music here. There's going to be fireworks later on. And all kinds of, there's going to be food trucks. We're just getting set up at the market. You can see the tents all the way down here. And there's a whole whack of tents down this way. And it's double sides, so there's all the way down both sides here. So we're hoping to sell a lot of product and just have a general good time. And it usually is. We did this last year. Well, we've done it for a few years now, but last year I recall it was a really good time. So my wife is just getting my booth set up, our booth set up. And we got some little pinwheels, we got the bees over here, we got some prizes for the kids to find the queen. So hope you're having a good time. One of my personal favorites is Forever Prairie. They have hundreds of homemade jams and jellies and preserves. My favorite is the relish. They make some relishes that are really, really, really good. So very friendly people and make very good products. Delicious stuff.
in this, I know, that's fine. He's just not giving up. Not giving up.
You'll get done setting up, about time to start tearing down.
This is
With
true. This is
this
the
many.
last one. We're almost, we took a popsicle break.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It's too warm. Whew. But here's Skylar has this one.
So I'm gonna put the bees back in their box. Come over here, we get an idea of how many foragers were away when we pillaged the hives. A few, not too bad though. It's Sunday, July the 2, 2023. And I'm trying to kind of take it easy today. I haven't had a day off in forever. We're kind of tired after the market yesterday. We did have a good time. Sold a lot of product. But still tired. So I have to respect my body's wishes. Give it some rest. And these bees are not going to be too happy when I pull them out. I pull the glass up, but usually plenty of them fly up. My queen is right there. Important thing is to not get the queen coming up with the glass. Quite a few bees come up with the glass. I don't want to cause too much carnage. And to get these up, I used my J hook to just hook the ear. It's nice that I can see where the queen is right now. Sometimes you open it up and you can't see the queen, you don't know where she is. She was laying eggs like crazy yesterday. One after another. Lots of good egg laying demonstration. They only have 3 frames in this 4-frame box. The way she's laying eggs, they certainly could use a 4th. Now, what I often end up doing is leaving the hive here just to let whoever's left in there fly away. That won't take long. It'll take just a few minutes. So I'll leave the wagon and everything right here. So that's the observation hive process. It's Monday, July 3rd, 2023. It's another very warm day. It's not as warm as it was certainly on Saturday. Yesterday we got a bit of rain. We got some thunder showers. A little bit of rain is welcome this time of year because it's quite dry. We've got a nice breeze today, which is very helpful with the warmer weather. So today I'm out here and I'm planning to do a graft. What I've done so far though is I've taken those cells that were in this cell builder, and I actually used the cell starter right up to the end of the term in the builder, and then took the cells to the incubator. So they'll be emerging. I think Wednesday is emergence day. I'd have to check my calendar, but I've got it all detailed in my calendar, and that's why I'm surprised that I'm having some trouble. You can see that I've made some syrup here. That's light syrup. So I've got behind there, I've got some pollen patties we'll put on once we get this set up. And I've got my little pickup here, which I use for my warm grafting room. It's definitely a greenhouse there, so it keeps things warm. I've got my hot water and my claws to keep my grafting frame and my cell bar moist and warm. So I think I'm set. There's just one thing I need to do here, and that's why I've got the smoker going. Usually I won't have a smoker lit if I'm going to graft, because I don't smoke the builder as a rule. But I have put some new sealed brood in here a few days ago, and I need to go through that now frame by frame, just check for volunteer cells. I call them rogue cells a lot, and just get rid of those, because if a virgin emerges there, boy, that takes care of my builder for sure. So the influx of new capped brood and emerging bees is awesome. The cells I took out of there still had royal jelly in the cup. So that means that the queen was fed to the maximum of her diet. She got all the jelly she wanted. And I'm looking forward to those. There should be some pretty nice looking queens when they come out. And so anyway, that's what's going on right now, and I'm going to tie into this, and there's going to be bees everywhere, because I shake all the frames off to check them for cells. Leave the bees on, especially in here, because there's so many bees in there. It's just packed, and they can hide those cells on you. So we'll tie into that, and I'll take you along. I'm gonna wear my veil for this, because the bees are not going to be happy with me. Hope my smoker didn't go out. Sometimes you have trouble getting your smoker going, and I'm not guaranteeing this will work. It doesn't work every time. Is because it's kind of packed and doesn't have enough airflow to make it burn. So stick my hive tool and make a bit of a chimney there. See, that's coming up a lot faster now. There, you can hear the fire. Pack it back down. Hoping I don't have to use too much smoke, but I need that on hand in case things get out of hand. Okay, so again, this is missing a frame because I took my graft frame out. This was a new blank story frame I just put in here. Because I had two graft frames in here earlier, and it needed a placeholder. They're not really building it. I'm surprised, because I've been feeding them the whole time. So just set that aside. That's definitely not going to have any cells on it. Now, one thing can happen. I see a cell cup down there. There's nothing on it. I think it was empty when it fell. But if you get a cell in your builder and it falls off your cell bar, and then that you lose track of it, and the queen emerges, well, now your cell builder is kind of hooped. You're either giving up or you're building a new cell builder. So I'm gonna start, you know what? My mama didn't raise no fool. I'm starting at the far side. And it's very heavy. It's full of syrup. So this one might actually come out. Because I can go and source another brood frame out of the zombies, perhaps. It's the key with the cell starter, the cell builder, is keep her stocked. So this frame is almost done. They build little cups and things. They got no queen. Well, I hope. So just a smattering of cells here. So I'll leave that in here against the wall. My population is pretty good in my opinion. So this is also about half emerged. And I don't think either of those, I only put maybe 2 or 3 new brood frames in recently, so not every one potentially has cells on it. Let's see, this was a pollen frame. It's still got some pollen. Yeah, it's still got pollen on that side. I'll leave that. Okay, so again, this is fine. They build dry cups. It's not a huge deal. They've got a cell on the bottom here though, and it's not dry. So they must have had something started when I put that in, and that's packed full of pollen. That's a really nice one. There's drone cells there too, which is just a function of the comb. It has nothing to do with anything else. Comb gets stretched out and then she just lays drones there. That's another pollen frame. This one's almost completely emerged. Goofiest thing, there's like 6-day-old larvae in here. 5 days. What in the world? Did I put a bunch of eggs in there? I don't see any eggs. I'm gonna get my magnifiers. Those are my 6x magnifiers. You look like Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys wearing these. And it's really hard to wear these with the veil because the focal length is the veil. Everything is blurry but the veil. It's ridiculous. You know, there's really small larvae there, I think. Oh no. The other thing I need, if I don't fall down, I really only needed this. My really hot Mike Berry flashlight. Yeah, there's nothing younger than 5 days. I must have put a bunch of eggs in here, which is weird. Shouldn't put eggs in this. Shouldn't put open. You know, it probably did me some good though, and this is why. Because I haven't had open cells in here, queen cells I mean, for quite a while. And that means that these bees have not had anything to feed for a few days. So the flow of jelly wasn't consistent. So the fact that they've had those larvae to feed, I think has probably worked for me. So shake this one as well. Oh, that's a nice frame. Surprised they didn't make rogue cells on that frame though. Why didn't they make rogue cells? But they've got queen larvae in here. Oh boy. It's kind of goofy. It's almost like this is queen right. I sure hope not. I do stuff and I forget what I do. I miss things, you know. I don't see any eggs. And it's weird that those cells were going on the bottom of the only explanation is they were there when I put the frame in, which was very careless of me. Okay, I think I want to find 3 more brood frames, so I'm going to go raid the zombies again. I can put these in the zombies. There's some open brood there. This is just nectar, there's nothing else. I think I'll get 3, then I can do away with this story frame. Surprised they're not drawing comb. They drew comb on my graft frame real nicely. So that's a little weird. Okay, let's go find some zombie frames. 3 zombie frames. Well, there's one. It's not as old as I'd like. I'll just have to watch it. I'll put all my new frames over here so I know where they are to check them. Zombie hives are coming through again. A little bit of pollen on this one, so I'll turn that toward the inside. And I need one more. I could have brought bees over here too, because I found at least 2 queens from where I took these brood frames. You know, so in retrospect, okay, I've got my glasses covered up here. Not sure I want the sun hitting those strong magnifiers. Might burn a hole in my tonneau cover. Okay, these are brand new. I think these cell cups were recycled. I did test the theory that the bees will actually be okay to use the recycled ones, and they will. It's not 100% take though, so it's not ideal. Did also test the idea of putting the cells in the hive for a period of time, you know, a day or 2 days or something, to have the bees prep the cells, polish the cells, whatever you want to call that. And it didn't make any difference. I've heard that from other people who have more experience than I have, that it really didn't make any difference. I think the difference it might make is keeping the cells warm. So these cells I set on the dash of the truck. Open the giant bag now. These cells run me about 15 cents a piece. You know, kind of adds up, I guess. But still, you know, if you get 50% overall take, that's 30 cents worth of cups per queen. That's pretty reasonable, really. Okay. So just stick that in there, get in the truck. The next thing I need is the all-important grafting frame. I have no larvae to choose from, so I need to go and get some. As I get closer to doing this, timing gets to be far more critical. I do get anxious over it. So I'm not going to detail video a lot of this. There's tons of that on the internet already. And I can't show you the grafting. I can't show you actually picking it up. I'm just going to go out to a colony I have here. Not one in particular, just one that I seem to, one that I seem to like, and see if I can find a frame of appropriately aged larvae. And once I bring that back, then I'm going to set the grafting. So I'll just kind of leave the camera run while I do that. Is I have my little cooler here, and it's full of hot water, and it's got a couple of claws in it. So I'm going to take that over there with me. When I find my graft frame, I'm going to cover it with a warm, damp cloth. My grafting easel doesn't have a little shelf on it. The thing about headlamps is they don't shine really where I'm looking. Little nectar flow now, so there's a little more jelly. The jelly was a bit lacking earlier on. Okay, here we go. I often start on the right so that, because I'll break down the wall of the cell to make it easier to pick up the larva, and that way I'm not pushing the broken cell wall over larvae that I could graft. And don't you worry about causing those bees extra work, because they're good at it and they love to do it. To fix that. There's quite a few bees in here. Okay, I got my first one. Yeah, 6X glasses are the deal. For me, everybody's sweet spot for magnification will be unique. Tried my new master grafting tool, and I didn't give it a real fresh shake. I was having difficulty, so I defaulted back to what I knew, which was the Chinese grafting tool. I need to do some practicing with the master grafting tool when I'm not anxious to get my graft done. This is a frame from a Kona that I took brood out of when I equalized those nucs. So it was just in that time range for her to lay up a nice frame of brood for me that I can use. And it's hot in here, very hot. You know what? I tried something the other day and it seemed to really work for me. I'm going to try that again. You need to have a method, have a little method to know where you're at on the cell bar. So I'll take one of the cups out and then just keep moving the next one back. Boy, these hatched earlier today. They're so young, but hard to pick up sometimes. Still not a ton of jelly in them. There's more than there has been. So take the cup out, and I know where I'm working at. The new headlamp is working okay. 6X glasses are working okay. I'm going to try and graft 2 bars of 15 today. This is a new comb. Presents some challenges. Very soft, so it's It's easy for me to push the cell walls back, open them up. But the bottom of the cell is soft as well. The tool doesn't slide on it. It'll dig in. And then you get the bottom of the cell instead of be under the larva itself. Okay, now I'm going to go and get this one in the hive. Okay, I've got the grafts in there. Just to prove it to you. 30 cell cups. I'll just tighten these up as you normally would. So I just want to put patties on here now. And I thought I would apply a little bit of smoke to move the bees, but my smoker's out. My little box here. So we'll see if the essence of smoke will move them at all. Well, how much? Okay. And again, I like to lay it beside the graft frame so it's not really in the way when I come back and check. And these three I need to check for rogue cells at some point too. Okay, now my fingers are sticky. But that's all I need to do there. Lid back on. Jar of syrup. So that's all I need to do. Now I make an entry in my calendar with that graft date, and I need to get my breeder frame back in that hive. A little bit of cleanup, and that's my grafting day. It's July 4, 2023. It's a Tuesday, and I want to wish all of my American viewers a happy Independence Day this July 4. Have some fun. Enjoy the day off at least. Except the beekeepers, you got to work anyway, right? I'm back in my outyard. I came and supered about half of these yesterday, and now I got to haul boxes all the way to the end and finish supering these. Colonies are looking good. Some of them are really ready for super, and some of them are not quite ready for super, so they're all going to get it anyway. Yesterday, I wanted to tip up some hives just to make sure the strong ones weren't starting to get some swarming ideas. I think these are new queens anyway, so I don't think I'm in danger of that. But I opted not to tip any up because I forgot my veil. I brought my veil today, so I think I'll tip a few up and check strength from down below. See if there's any swarm cells or what's going on. We'll maybe look into some. I didn't bring my tripod, so I'll have to kind of one-hand it or something. So I can fit about a half a yard of boxes in my truck if I just load them with the tractor. It's not very efficient. If I load them by hand, I can fit an entire yard of boxes. And I don't have tons of drawn comb. You may know that I've been putting drawn comb in a lot of my colonies, so I'm running a lot of foundation. I've prepared these boxes with 2 frames of drawn comb, straddling a frame of foundation, and then foundation otherwise in these boxes. So that'll give them somewhere to work immediately. It's one thing I learned my first year of beekeeping, that if your queen is getting plugged out and she's being driven toward a swarming impulse, then you can add space, right, to help alleviate that. Foundation is not space. Foundation is not space. Drawn comb is space. Okay, so I've given them something that resembles space that they can use right away, and then they can get to work drawing the foundation. Pretty sure they have still a bit of a flow. The hayfield has been cut and baled up, so that source is gone. I actually see a little bit of trefoil. You probably can't see it. There's a lot of trefoil in this yard, and it's very short, so the haying process often doesn't really catch it. And I see a little bit of Dutch clover actually starting to show itself again. I don't think it'll be long before this is back. So I got to carry my boxes out, and then I'm going to get to work. Okay, I've unloaded the boxes, and here's my way of thinking with this. There's a bit of walking involved here, and there's only so much gas in the tank. So I'll move all my boxes out first while I'm fresh, and set them on the hives. But one little point here is that I don't put boxes on the last pair of hives here, because then I don't move them twice. So these two boxes will move on to those two hives, and then I'll work those two and put these two boxes over here, so on and so on down the line. So it works out really well, saves some steps. People often ask me, what's some tips to running many colonies? And that's one of them. You save yourself 2 steps 1,000 times a day. That's a lot of steps. Or even 2 steps 100 times a day. So here's some yellow bees. They're healthy enough and not bursting at the seams. But I think this is maybe one of the lighter ones. I think there's some that are a little heavier than this yet on bees. They're just packing that all with nectar, both sides. Let's see how far in here we have to look to get some brood. That's nectar. I should pull all these into my second box. They're all honey frames, because we put these in here when we transferred the bees. They were empty. There's eggs in here. And eggs in that one too. So I think I'm going to bother to do that. I'm going to pull these 2 outside frames and maybe 1 or 2 from the other side and put those in my honey super. And I can put some more foundation in the bottom. I put those honey frames here. These 2. And there's foundation here. There's more foundation on that side, and I put 2 foundation frames there. Those they're new, but I pre-waxed those, so they'll fill them up real fast. I thought I might take a honey frame from the end of the bottom box there too, but I checked that one and it's full of eggs and young larvae, actually full of young larvae. So the nest is certainly, on that side. That's okay. They're on a flow, they'll fill it up fast enough. Alright, well, that's what's going on. Gotta do that about 17 or 18 more times. Well, that didn't take very long. I pulled a few honey frames up. I got tired of that and I just started putting boxes on. I'm not sure it'd make a big difference because they do move honey up when they need more room in the brood nest, brood chamber for the brood nest. Anyway, so I'll have a sample down at the end of 8 colonies that got the foundation in the bottom box. So we'll see how that goes, see if there's any dynamic. Always seems to be an airplane. Okay, I'm going home now and do some more stuff. It's Thursday, July 6th, 2023. Now, I'm out here at the mating yard, which is just the east side of my apiary, and I'm about to, I have to make a few nucs today. You can see that I've just put together a few more of these 4-frame boxes. It was just to put screen on the bottom and a couple feet. It's not that involved, but it does take a while because there's quite a few of them. I have a few in the shop yet to build, and of course you can see the entrance discs on the front there. So they'll just be like the rest of these here. And the reason I need to make those is I don't have enough nucs. I've got 27 cells in the incubator, and I don't know how many nucs I have, but there's only maybe a dozen here. So I need to make a bunch more. I don't know if the zombies will have enough resources. If not, I'm going to tear down actually some of these that I've got for requeening, and I'll just pinch that queen. Maybe I'll turn her into a zombie, and then use those resources for mating nucs, because those turn into 6s anyway. And on my way out the door, I checked my incubator, and I have 3 virgins here. They are, I'm sure you can't see in this little cage, but I'll show you anyway. The virgin queen walking around in there. So I've pulled them out of their hair roller cage, and I've marked them. So they have a nice red dot. You can see I got some red paint on that cage. And I'm going to direct release those into these mating nucs. These mating nucs have been queenless for a couple of weeks anyway. So they certainly are hopelessly queenless, and they should be dying for a queen. I've had good success with this. I know other people have not, and I don't know what the key is, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing while it works. Let's put these 3 virgins in there, and then we can set to making some more nucs. I often come out here with a pocket full of virgin queens to introduce at just about any hour. I'll usually check them in the evening before going to bed, and if there's any emerged, I'll run them out here. And I often do this without wearing a veil, but I'm wearing a veil today. I just was walking across the apiary and I got stung on the side of the face for no reason. I guess in somebody's mind I deserved it. Alright, it's pretty basic. These bees have been queenless a long time, and they are just dying for a queen to emerge, and she's in there trying to have a snack on that candy, and she's fresh. She's been out of her cell maybe an hour. And she's just gonna walk right down in there. Boy, she's a nice looking one. Big virgin. See, the bees instantly start sharing the information. And I'm going to write on this lid. This is grafting round 6. And it's the first round that's actually been moderately successful. I'll just do the same thing again. So that you can see these nucs they're not weak, they're just small nucs. This one's up on the candy too. She's having a snack. I'll just grab her by the wings. Just set her right there. And off she goes to her new life. I think one of the things that I try to do when I'm doing this is just to be very gentle. I don't want to bang things around. I don't want to get them stirred up. I don't want them upset at all. So you just pull that lid off very gently. I've done all my rogue cell checks. I don't want to grab those frames and shake them off and start pinching cells and stuff right before I put my new queen in. Okay, Queenie. We'll just put you right there. And that worker, you'll notice that sometimes the first encounter with a worker is a bit aggressive. But then I think they realize what they've got. And they realize it's not just an intruder. Okay, so again, just very gentle. Everything's very gentle. Before I go through the zombies, I'm going to check this one. There's 3 nucs here. This one, that one. That were made up early on with supersedure cells or something. And I say something because I really didn't take very good notes. Early in the season you think, oh, I'm going to remember, and now I've got 40 with different stories and I don't know what they are. She is obviously, there's eggs and milk brood and sealed brood and everything on there. She's obviously got the idea. She knows where the rubber meets the road. That's kind of funny because that frame has nothing on it. And neither, oh, that one's full of eggs. There's the queen. She's right here. She's not huge, but she's a nice black queen. I'm going to put that back together. Okay, so what I can do is I can close this up because this is a pro nuc. I can close it up, move it to my building for 2 nights, and then I can bring it out and transfer it to any box of my choosing. And so I might do that because I'm going to be making up nucs here today, and I plan to do exactly that, to move them into the building for tonight. I'm going to start over here because I started at the far end last time. I don't remember how far I got. So we'll start this side. See how much sealed brood we can pilfer. Look at that hive. Had colonies. Okay. That's a failing colony. I didn't even start my smoker. Let's see how this goes. You think I got pretty high standards to call that a failing colony? I don't know, it's a failing colony. She's an old queen and she wasn't doing much. She's in this box, I think, because she was kind of a dud queen last year and I decided to winter those. So she's got a track record of being a bit of a dud. And there she is right there. Big blue dot and all. She's got that laid up wall to wall. Yeah, maybe my standards are too high. I just got to put her in this box for safekeeping while I rob her blind. Lots of pollen. Quite a bit of sealed brood. Lots of sealed brood there. That'll make a nice nuc. I need to get some frames to replace these. I'm kind of running out of frames again. So that's fresh. So that must have been one I put in after the last round of pilfering. And look at that. Okay. Think that'll make a good nuke frame. So if you're not convinced yet of the value of the zombie nukes, I hope you're starting to understand why I bother. That's all honey, and they're sealed brood, but it's mostly honey. Yeah. So yeah, I bother because I'm making all my mating nukes without pilfering any of my production hives. So far, that might change. I'm just going to shake this frame off. It's pretty much just a honey frame. A little bit of brood. Frame and a shake never hurts. I'll stick a lid on that one. Again, I need to fill these up with frames. And I need to refill these with frames. We'll see how far we get. I can't leave it though. I left it the other day and I was punished for that. They started building comb. They started building frames of comb where there was no frames. So I definitely paid for that. That's 14 nukes. And that'll be pretty close to enough. I should count again. So I'm just going to put those in the building now. Keep them cool. I might have to wait till my wife gets off work so she can come and find this queen for me. Because I just got that one more to make up. I have to do a few more of these boxes in the wood shop. So I think I'll do that now. And then I can bring those out later and maybe make some more nukes out of some of those hives I want to requeen. It's Friday, July 7, 2023. Only 2 more days of work this week after today. I'm out here with 7 caged virgins this morning. My nose is a little congested. Sorry, I sound like I have a cold. I don't. But I'm going to be direct releasing these into queenless nukes here right away. And then there's a couple more things I need to accomplish. Some of these hives are really filling up. So I need to get, if they're singles and they need help, I'm going to just put a second brood chamber on them. And if they're doubles or triples, there's some triples, then I'm going to shake them down and put a queen excluder and then put those boxes back on and add more boxes if they so warrant. If they don't, if they don't need more space, I'm going to leave them alone. I don't have time for that today. It'll have to be done next week. But that's okay if they grow up into those boxes. That's just fine. So that's today. It's actually going to be a pretty busy day, particularly because there's a lot more queens in that incubator that could be coming out to join the world and start their job. So we'll start by doing that today. There's actually not much to see in this process, but I think that's kind of why I show you this process, is there's not much to see. Look at this hive. This, of course, this is located where the cell starter was located. And if you remember, I moved the cell starter in order to kind of extract the older bees from it. So this little nuke has really filled up. And as far as I recall, it's queenless. Therefore, we are going to introduce a marked virgin queen. This latest round of queens is actually looking pretty nice. I'll just pick her right up. Set her there as she goes down to start her life's work. Now these have been queenless quite some time. Like a couple of weeks. They're often not queenless that long when I do this. But my grafting, I had gotten these nukes ready, and my grafting was having trouble. So a couple of rounds of grafting down the road. There she goes, down to do her job. Godspeed, little queen, Godspeed. So these are grafting round 6. So I'll write that on here. R6. And this is so I can keep the different grafting rounds separate for calendar purposes, so I know when to come and check them for, eggs and laying success and mating success, that kind of stuff. I don't really track, season to season. Is the first round a better queen than the 5th or 6th round or whatever? I don't really track that. I have marked it on my hives, but I don't really track it. I meant for this to be a breeder, solely on the virtue that it's a 2019 queen. But James brought something up that I hadn't really considered. Of course, it's a theory. It's a theory based on some things we know about the bees. I haven't looked in it in a while. See, my theory was always grafting from my oldest queens. They are plugged right out. Just because then I'm selecting from hardy stock that winters well. Because she's done 19, 20, 21, 22. So she's lived for 4 years, 4 winters. And I think that's quite remarkable. So I was grafting off of her. And James brought up the fact, he said, over time, he's thinking that the sperm in the queen is maybe degrading in some respects, and therefore, the sperm used to fertilize that queen egg, the egg that will eventually become my grafted queen, might be compromised in some way. It might be degraded. It might not be the best. And I can't say that he's wrong. So I think both those theories have merit. So you just do what you think is best. It looks to me like what's best is that these bees need to go into a bigger box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get one of my 6-frame poly boxes and transfer this colony into it. Now I still have 5 virgins in my pocket, so I have to prioritize what I'm doing, and this is going to wait for that. It's a beautiful day. I'm just going to leave that open just because I'm going to mash bees if I try and close it. So we will go and put some more virgins in some nucs. Okay, judging by our 6 marks here, that's where I left off. Don't like to make a lot of racket here. Wow, this has got a population. That's a nice one. Maybe some drift was going on here. Got myself another queen. Some of these little things are kind of tough to open. She is right there at the door. So I have to be ready for her to climb out. I know you can't see very well, but she's climbing right out onto that top bar. There you go. And they just head off down the hole right away. Just the way they should. It's like they know. Pulling at her leg. Okay, get down there. All right. Close this up. Right, there are 6. On to the next. So this one is far less populated. It's still a viable mating nuke though. They don't need, you know, I use these 4-frame nukes because it's kind of the smallest box I have. It's funny, you know, I notice a pretty well universal action by the bees. The first bee will come up and touch her face and touch her antennae and whatnot, and then immediately turn around and find another bee and share what she just found. Hey, look what I found. There's a queen here. We need one of those. You know, that's really nice. Hey, yeah, like I say, this is the smallest box I have. You can use far smaller. I mean, you can use minis if you want. So you don't need, my point is you don't need a box like that. You don't need a one that's completely full of bees. I prefer not, because they're just easier to find in a smaller nuke. I got 3 in my pocket here still. Are you ready to come out? You are. There you go. Hey, look what I found, she says. You're always just the first little touch is quite often a little bit aggressive because, you know, it's an intruder basically. But the guard bees aren't up here. The guard bees are down by the entrance. So the guard bees are really the threat to anything. These are all my theories. I'm no Tom Seeley. I'm no Karl von Frisch. And see, this one is very low population, but again, it's more than sufficient. It's in a box that's too big for them, but that's okay because it's summertime, it's warm weather. Okay, off you go. You start doing your thing there. Alright. I'll treat you nicely. Okay, I've got a couple more yet. And I've said before, you know, I think doing this gentle is the name of the game. You know, it's good. I think it's really good to do this without your veil. I am wearing my veil, but because if you're being gentle enough that you're not getting stung, then that's probably almost gentle enough to keep these bees from getting upset. If you've ever seen a nice queen get bald, you don't know the heartbreak of watching that happen. It's pretty heartbreaking. Okay, off you go. Godspeed, little bee. Now I'll go and do some other work, and check the incubator again in a little bit. I'm going to sort of break my own rules here. I guess this doesn't matter because I'm going to change this one anyway. But I need to leave room for a 6-frame box here. And the rule I'm going to break is not disturbing these little guys. I'm going to move this just enough to give it a little bit of diversity for that virgin. I think this one should be okay where it is. These entrances are similar color. That one is a faded yellow. That one's white. But I want my virgins to remember where they came from. But I don't want her to go in there. Okay, so this is going to end up a 6-frame poly box. I have to be careful here because I'm on the same stand and I don't want to bang these around. I'm only gaining 2 frames here, but I am gaining 50% space, so I think that's pretty good. Can we do this with no smoker? Let's see. Very populous. Wow. Just highly populated here. Alright, so this is looks like there's brood, but there's so many bees it's hard to see. I'm going to try to put the new frames just inside there. I should have my new frames here. What's this look like? See, this is an old queen, and she's not laying not laying very well. As he pulls out slabs of brood. And that's exactly why I wanted to graft off of her. Maybe I will, Maybe I'll graft my next round off this one, because I'm going to be putting in 2 new drawn combs here, and then I should be able to graft off of that in 4 or 5 days after she lays in there. See, they're packing away honey here. I didn't even see her. I wasn't really looking for her. So this is going to be full anyway, right? Even with the extra frames, which I'll go grab. That's the kind of thing you want for queen timing. Nicely drawn. Empty comb. Just going to try to clean this a little. This one actually is yellow foundation. It's just old enough that you can't tell. Downside is there's a few drone size cells here. So I have to not let that throw me. I can't believe I'm filling these polys again. This season's work was supposed to be to get rid of these polys, but not happening. A lot of bees in here yet. I'm gonna bang this because I got the virgin sitting right there. So I'll need to set this up here. Just let them do the march. Smoke them down if I had a smoker. Good squash, little bees. Need a feed hole plug, but there's one right there. And then I'll get I'll get a brick for that. I should mark it too. I've quickly made the rounds and identified the singles that should have a second box, and that ended up being almost all of them. There's only a couple I didn't identify. Kind of running out of brood comb, but what I've got here, these two hives you may remember are the ones that I dumped all the bees into a clean box with clean comb. So they were set back by the fact that I took all the brood away from them. And at this point, they're doing quite well. I would say they're still, a little behind the other good colonies, because obviously some of these have 2 boxes already. This was actually a nuke I bought from a guy a month ago. And so you can see that it's really grown up. And what I'm putting on here is a box of story frames, oddly enough. They're mostly drawn in the center. These are frames that I cut comb honey out of last year. So I need to refresh my story frames. A lot of them got culled this year for rendering, and so I don't mind putting these on as a brood chamber and getting brood in them, because they'll likely end up in brood chambers anyway. So multi-uses, those story frames. And so that colony can grow up into there, fill that. Because out of desperation, the other brood comb that I'm going to be installing is not nice and fresh and clean. It's just kind of what was in the shed. I think it's okay. I think it's good comb, but it's not perfect and new like I've been using so far. Okay, so I'm just going to go around and do this. Put these on. Now that our honey flow is well underway, I want to return these double colonies back to a single, and they will stay a single from now until probably sometime in May or June next year. That's the single brood chamber of the single brood chamber management style of beekeeping. So essentially what I need to do is I need to get the queen in the bottom box. And that's what I need to do, because I want her in the bottom box. Then I'll put this queen excluder over the bottom box. I'll put this box back on top. There might be brood up in here. There usually is. If there isn't, that's okay, because there's likely going to be honey up in here as well. And so put that back on top, and then that becomes, instead of a second box of a double brood chamber, that becomes a honey super. They'll fill that up, and as you know, egg lay to emergence is 3 weeks, and I've got plenty of time at this point to wait that out and let them emerge that brood, backfill that with nectar, turn it into honey. So the method here, it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to frame by frame shake the bees off, and because I'm working for myself, I get to decide how I spend my time. I do look for the queen just for a moment. If I see her, good, I'll place her in the bottom box, and I'm done shaking. Just to reinforce the point that all the shaking you're about to see is there to get the queen in the bottom box, and not to have to spend all afternoon looking for queens. Okay, and I do have my smoker, because this is going to cause a lot of calamity here. Make sure the guard bees have something to do besides sting me. Now it looks like I placed this nice box of comb on here not long ago. but I can tell by weight that they've been working on it. Okay, so again, shake those off. Now there's a couple bees on there, but I can see that the queen is not. And the queen is pretty heavy. You give it a shake and she's going to fall off pretty fast. Just a quick look for the queen, and then I can see what's going on the frame. They're putting nectar in these frames. Honey flow is definitely here. It's a good sweet clover year, which is really nice to see. Haven't had a really good sweet clover crop in a few years. So this has got some eggs in it in the center there. That's a third frame, so you know that might mean that there's quite a bit of brood up in here. This is, you can see the pattern where the bees are not collecting. That's where the eggs are. That's quite remarkable. And that's okay, you know, above the queen excluder they'll take care of those eggs and the larvae just the same. So I think I put mostly foundation in this box. They're drawing it and filling it with nectar. So when the nectar flows on, they draw that foundation. Now there's some more comb. I often put 2 boxes just so it's not low enough I have to stoop every time. You stoop a few hundred times a day. Gets to your back. Again, you can see the difference in color and that there's no bees. All through here is eggs. And that's eggs too. We have a good little north breeze going here today. It's not that warm. I don't know that it's even 20 C. So you can just see this is very white and this has got a little yellow tinge to it. That's where the eggs are. I don't understand exactly why that difference in coloring just for prepping it for eggs, but it's pretty obvious that that's what that is. Same thing. See in the middle there, and this is fresh comb. This has never had brood in it, so that's not leftovers from before. That's new. There's the queen. She's not marked. This looks like a really pretty queen. She's a bit slender, but she's nice and long. This was a nuke I bought from a gentleman this year, so I'm not 100% sure of the lineage of this queen. The tip on that is kind of hairy. Okay, so I'll put her here. And I don't need to shake these bees, but I don't want bees on the ground over here. So I'll just lightly shake them off. Lots of eggs. She's laid up really well into that box. Okay, I'm done with that box. Now, something else I can do here, something else I need to do is, my first year I didn't have good luck with queen excluders. I couldn't make the bees come through. But I was first year beekeeper. So I was working with a lot of foundation and all kinds of stuff, and I didn't really have a mentor to explain things like that to me. But what I was doing is I just put a box on top and a queen excluder, and then bees wouldn't go through it. They just see it as a ceiling. So I went without, and I dealt with the problem of brood in my honey supers. But then I learned to bait. Use what I call a bait frame. So what that is I'll pull a brood frame, even if it's a honey frame, from this box up into the second box above that excluder. I know there's no queen in here now. I always go with the theory there's only one queen in a colony, which there usually is, but you know, it's not a hard and fast rule either. So what I usually do is I try to find frames that I want to cycle out. And these plastic frames fit that profile perfectly. I don't like plastic frames. Look at that. She's really laying nice. This is about this from Chris in Winnipeg. Very nice. So I'm just gonna stand these here as they are. So I'm going to get these plastic frames. I often don't pull more than 1 or 2 bait frames. You don't need more than 1. You just need to show the bees that there's something up there that they're interested in. But I'm going to pull 3 because I want to get rid of the plastics. And there's also kind of an old wooden frame here that I want to get rid of. Okay, it's just honey. So what happens is these will end up in the honey super, and then they get carried over to the honey house, and I'll identify them there and rotate them out. So what I want to find is some of those frames of eggs in here. And there's some there. I'll put this here. So I need 3 frames, 3 of those frames that have eggs to replace those that I took. So that has, and see that's not drawn, but put that in the brood nest and they will draw that lickety split because they don't care to have no comb right in the brood nest like that. And this is eggs too. Put that right there. Okay. Alright, so let's not forget to put the queen in the bottom. So we'll do that now. Oh. Oh. Virgins, they're not going to fly away on you. These mated queens, they know how to fly. Okay. Put this on here. Now this will immediately teach the bees how to get through that. Well, they know how. That they should go through that excluder. That there's something there for them. Just put those right in here. And all that brood is going to be, all the sealed brood will be emerged in 12 days. All the eggs will be emerged in 21. And then the bees will fill that with honey. Okay, so there's still space here. She's not going to be laying up here anymore, so there's still space here for some honey, but I need to watch it, and we'll be adding another honey super here before long. And no, I don't put my honey supers on the bottom. The extra work is not worth the payoff at all. Get my bubbles glasses on.
I never got into that show.
Hey?
Yeah.
Ricky, you don't have to be a dick about it. You don't have to be such an arsehole.
That's pretty good. Oh.
Good old Mike Smith.